Howdy partners, we are here today to talk a little bit about Red Dead Online and their Blood Money update. This video is not necessarily a review of the update, and I actually plan to talk about the deeper issues behind the update. But in case you haven't been paying attention throughout this last week or watching any other videos, we will real quick cover roughly what it does. Blood Money opened up a new set of free roam missions called crime missions. These will range from going into houses and stealing something, holding up stagecoaches or wagons, and they will earn you a little bit of money and gold just like every other mission in the game. And you will have a shot of earning Capitale, which will allow you to take on higher quality heists like robbing a train. Currently only one of their 3 planned heists are in the game at the moment, and the reward for it is a higher payout of money and gold. There are a lot of places that you will hear this update was complete trash, or it was a scam. Overall, that it's kind of pathetic. I don't completely agree with that opinion, but I definitely don't think the update would be classified as good. In fact, I've heard it from multiple reliable sources of myself that the update is meh, just okay, or it's fine. Obviously, for any gaming company, this should not be the ideal or the goal whenever you release an update. The missions that were added in Blood Money are often classified as Stranger Missions 2.0, as they use the same format, they're given by a lot of the same characters, and a lot of the missions follow the same base outline we've already seen. One of my biggest complaints with the missions is that there seems to be no freedom of choice when you're doing them. I took on one mission where they wanted me to go and steal a supply wagon. I got to the camp to find a single bodyguard there, and the mission told me to take him out. It then told me to pick up his body and to deposit it in a specific location in the woods. Once I dropped his body off, it told me to go to one specific location in order to get to my vantage point and watch the wagon show up. I watched the wagon show up in a short cutscene where the people driving it got attacked by wolves. The mission then told me to take the wagon and steal it while they were distracted by the wolves and to get it to my final destination. This all seemed very linear and streamlined. Why not give me the option to take out the bodyguard or leave him there and just wait for the wagon to show up and take him out as well? If I do decide to take him out, why tell me exactly where to put the body instead of allowing me to place it wherever I'd like and potentially placing it in a bad spot and the wagon getting alerted early? If the wagon gets alerted early, why can't they take off and let me chase it down to try and get it and create a messier situation? When the wagon shows up, if I do everything properly and they get attacked by wolves, why can't I choose to kill the wolves and the people guarding it and then take the wagon once everything's calmed down? All of these are just a few options in one single mission of what they could have done different to give yourself some replayability or some interesting outcomes. But the entire thing seems very streamlined, seems very linear, and only cares to have one outcome, which is a huge problem in Red Dead Online since most of the fun encounters and memorable experiences come from the craziness that you get into when you do things wrong and not optimal. Now, all this rambling is actually off topic. I'm not here to talk about the update itself and if it's any good or bad. I'm here to talk about who thinks it's good and bad, and why. The Red Dead Online update is mostly seen as a pathetic update or a waste of time from veteran Red Dead Online players. Most notably, a lot of the YouTubers that cover Red Dead Online. And the Blood Money update is normally seen as a pretty good update or pretty fun from newer Red Dead players. There's a huge reason for this. And that's because the update was marketed even before it launched for new players. You can see right here in their little promotional area that it says there's no upfront cost to unlock it. An upfront cost of gold to unlock it, just like every other role in the game, would not matter to any experienced or veteran Red Dead Online player, since they should have a ton of gold and a ton of money and not really have a worry about unlocking anything in the game that requires these currencies. The only reason to market it this way is to intrigue new players into it, since all the other roles require an upfront cost. Now, don't get me wrong, there's not a problem with bringing new players into the game or having missions without an upfront cost. We were all new players at once in every game that we play. And that's why this update is kind of polarizing. For people like myself who came back to the game to check it out, you have a day or a few days of content to check out, and none of it's really different from anything you've been doing, all to gain a reward that you don't need because there's no new items, no new clothing, weapons, or horses to unlock. For a new player, however, you're entering the game and seeing all these roles that cost gold, and normally it's ideal to unlock one in order to make a good amount of money. Now you have something to do in the game that gives role quality money and rewards, but doesn't have an upfront cost. It's a perfect situation and a very good thing for new players. But the deeper issue with the update is it's a clear sign Rockstar does not care about the veteran players. The last thing they released that could be considered a major content update is the Prestigious Bounty Hunter back in December. That's 8 months ago. The Prestigious Bounty Hunter was an advancement of one of the roles, and we're not going to get into if that update was any good or not. But it took them 8 months to come out with another large content update, and it was geared towards newer players. What is the reason for this? Well, clearly, new players and new purchases of the game make Rockstar money, and veteran players simply do not. This can be seen even more evidently by the fact that Red Dead Online is now 50% off and on sale not a week after Blood Money came out. Red Dead marketed a new update for new players and then put the game on sale a week after it's out to build up more sales. New players make Rockstar money, veteran players do not. When you're a new player entering Red Dead Online, you have a ton of content to do, and the game is a blast. But when you have played the game as long as some of us have, you run out of things to enjoy. Now, I have gotten my money's worth out of Red Dead Online and have no complaints about it. But the fact that Rockstar will never cater to the veteran player is going to hinder me from coming back and enjoying it again. There is not any content that has come out recently that would bring me back or continue a veteran player's journey in any way, shape, or form. And due to the fact that Rockstar is not making any money from these veteran players and are only making money from new sales, why would they create content that doesn't cater to new players? An example of a company caring about their veteran players is Final Fantasy XIV from Square Enix. Just recently, around the same time that Blood Money launched, Final Fantasy sold out of its digital copies due to a recent surge in its popularity. Now, if the idea of digital copies being sold out is confusing to you, there are some places that try to explain this due to them only having a certain amount of keys ready and a certain amount of slots on servers. But all in all, what it really means and comes down to is they didn't want to overload their servers with new players and inconvenience their current player base. Square Enix chose to give convenience to the veteran players who have stayed with them this long, as opposed to selling their product to new people. Imagine that, a company choosing not to make a sale that they could in order to accommodate the people that have already been playing the game. Final Fantasy can do this due to the fact that they have a subscription system in place. They are making money off their current veteran players, so there's a reason to cater to them and accommodate them in the longer run. This might seem like a huge inconvenience and annoyance as a new player in the game, and Blood Money might seem like a fine update as a new player to Red Dead. But every new player will become a veteran player at some point if they enjoy the game. So it's important to pay attention to what companies are going to care about the veteran player, because at some point, ideally, you're going to be one. Now, we're not going to compare Final Fantasy XIV and Red Dead Online in content because they're completely different game styles. An MMORPG like Final Fantasy is clearly going to have a much bigger content pool, but I think it's important to remember how they release those updates. Every expansion of Final Fantasy XIV, from Heavensward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and then upcoming to Endwalker, releases content for the veteran player. You can't take part in it as a new player until you beat all the other ones, and everything released in the game is for someone who has already completed what was previously there. They don't need to release updates or expansions for new player content or lower level content, because all of their old content is just good for new players like it was for the veteran players. Red Dead Online could do the same thing. The trader, the bounty hunter, the collector, all these roles that we began with way back in the day should be good enough for the new player base. And then doing the Land of Opportunity missions should net you enough money and experience to get you through the early levels until you can unlock a role, just like all of us did. But Rockstar is not going to side with the veteran player base and create new content that new players could also eventually enjoy. And instead, they are going to release content solely for new players in the game because that's what makes them money. I know this video comes off as kind of a rant about Red Dead Online, but I do love this game. I came back right when Blood Money came out, jumped in, and I've played it off and on for most of the week it's been out. And although doing anything in Red Dead can be fun, there's no purpose or reason for me to because there's nothing new to do from a veteran's perspective. This deeper issue found within the Blood Money update doesn't necessarily even have a fix. You could claim that they need to go to a subscription service like Final Fantasy so they have some incentive to create content for the veteran players. But Red Dead Online is not an MMORPG and doesn't really have the setup to make a subscription service worthwhile or even usable. So even though there's not really a fix that I can see to adjust this or move forward with better updates, I do believe that this video needed to be made for any potential new players into Red Dead Online. You may be a new player now that sees this update as something to buy the game for, but in the future you will be a veteran player, and Rockstar does not seem like they will ever care for the veteran player. They do not seem like they care for Red Dead Online, which is a huge shame, because even on Steam right now, it has very positive reviews. The game is an absolute blast. It might be the only Western on the market at the moment, or at least the only good Western on the market. And if Rockstar cared just a little bit about the game like they do with Grand Theft Auto, this would be one of the best games that there is. It is still nearly unrivaled in animations and graphics. It has incredibly small attention to detail in the game that makes you stay and love the environment. It has an incredibly fun combat system. The roles are actually pretty fun, and you could sit there and hunt or collect items for hours. There are things that people want in the game that haven't been there for the longest time, like bank robberies and ranching. And if Rockstar would add these things in and these replayable elements in, if they cared about Red Dead at all, we would be having a much different conversation. But for the moment, it seems like they are just happy spending 8 months to create updates to bring new players in and market it to people who haven't played the game yet, and then create more sales right after the update in order to get more copies of the game out there. If you're a veteran player in the game, hopefully, like me, you have gotten your money's worth and you're not bitter at the game or angry when you play it. Hopefully you find enjoyment in it. After all, that's what these games are for. But it is important to be aware of this if you are starting to burn out of the game or if you're looking to buy it. Rockstar most likely will never care about the veteran player base and might never create content that really brings you back into it or gives you longevity in the game past what you're at right now. Hopefully this video was somewhat educational for you or at least entertaining. I appreciate you joining me and I will see you next time.